Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. So glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll just jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice. For the disclaimers in the description below. So glad to be back with you here at the last day of the month. I cannot believe it's almost February. 2024 is just rushing ahead with so much intensity that we have to be active, right? We have to be on board. And so I'm going to get into the video here in a moment, but I want to just say thank you, of course, to everybody supporting the channel. I want to say thank you to Liz, just a special shout out. I want to just say thank you to everybody who supports the channel. And I want to remind people that because it's the last day of the month, if you want to get entered into the giveaway that goes on this channel, I get to give away 2 bottles of C60 Evo capsules. This is the ESS60 organic olive oil infused with carbon 60 that comes out of the premier lab in the world out of Houston, Texas. Well, you can do that if you contribute to the channel. You will get entered into the giveaway and you get 15% off on products from C60 Evo. So for people who are just watching, you can get, you go to c60evo.com/YAFTV, use the code YAFTV for 10% off. But if you contribute to the channel, you get 15% off with a different email and code sent to you. And, everybody who's, contributed since I got back on 18 months ago after the deplatforming is already entered into that giveaway. If you want to be part of that giveaway, it's always a thrill. Tomorrow I will announce the winners, and I just love it. I just love being able to give it away, and I thank C60 Evo for being part of that. And of course, I also love the facial serum. It's so good. It really is just enlivening with the C60 and the 24 micronutrients that go into it. So, okay, we'll jump into the news here. The news. All right, so this video is going to cover the convoy, so much of what's going on with the trafficking of humans in small stories related to that are coming out, breaking, and then interconnecting with the transhumanism stuff, how it's all interconnected, how the globalist transhumanist push is so connected with the migrant push, so connected with the breaking down of America's borders. We're going to just jump in there. So I'll put on my glasses and then I can give you the news. So I want to start out with just an interesting story. I think it's very interesting that we have InfoWars under massive bot attack, huge, like 1 billion bots attacking InfoWars. In the 100 millions of bots sending millions and millions of things for what is their, basically their, being able to meet their ability to provide service. And so people are just saying the gateway is not working, it's not working. And they are being hit by denial of service with a mega billion bot attack at InfoWars. So they must be hitting something, because they're getting attacked massively and kind of the largest ever seen. It would take tens of millions of dollars to make this operation happen, this attack. So I guess InfoWars must be over the target. So there's that. The Mayorkas impeachment was approved. The articles of impeachment were approved, and that's good because Mayorkas, no oath, Todd Callender, he of course has been enabling the invasion of our country, and that impeachment is going forward. Hopefully, we'll get a vote by the end of the week. Might go into next week. We'll see what happens. Things are squirrely there with Mike Johnson. He's been all day preaching about what's going on in the border, but he also is literally aligning with a lot of these border people. We're going to get into that in a second. The spending CR, massive amounts of money to basically what they say is going to entrepreneurs to support small businesses and entrepreneurs is really going to massive, huge, big tech companies and corporations in the CR. The child tax credit will be allowed then for migrants, massive amounts of money for migrants' children. And really, when we say migrant children, it's really going to the NGOs that are housing them, which we're going to talk about in this video as well. You know, the lie, the child tax credit, no. It's going to the NGOs that are actually caging and holding these children who don't know what the hell's going on. And then, of course, the money to pay for the invasions, massive amounts of money to the NGOs, over 250 plus NGOs, whether it's HIAS, the Catholic Charities. Very interesting that Langford, the senator who is trying to push this CR forward out of Oklahoma, he's a Baptist minister. And you just have to wonder, you know, Mike Johnson, you know, Langford, the Baptist minister, you know, what is going on with all this funding of religious corporations that are getting tons of our taxpayer dollars out of these NGOs. And it has a $1.6 billion 2024 budget. We're going to talk about it out of what CIS.org is doing, the Center on Immigration Studies with Todd Bensman. So we're going to get into that in a minute. But I want to just cover a couple more things before that, and just talk about, I think, to start, we'll talk about what's going on with the convoy at the border. We have, of course, the convoy is now, you know, probably crossing into Texas. It left Virginia Beach, where, you know, it was talking about the, you know, the founding of America there in Virginia Beach, and going to the border. And there's just some interesting things to know here about what's going on. You know, so we look at the funding of all these NGOs. We look at Abbott sending all of, you know, the migrants up into the country. And so many people are saying that he is literally absolutely stopping election integrity in Texas, that this is all just for show to continue, you know, provide a diversion while there's so many other things going on, like, you know, the soft coup in Ukraine, another U.S. coup in Ukraine, NATO coup, where they're taking down Zelensky now. We'll get into that. But let's get into Abbott. So his people, you know, Abbott's people, you know, people on the ground, you know, when we're watching the RNC situation, this attempt to get Ronna McDaniels out, this attempt to get control of the money that is just going willy-nilly to, you know, these biggest players, Haley, DeSantis, etc. Well, the people that are actually doing the heavy lifting say in Texas that it is Abbott's people that are preventing the election integrity efforts there. That it's Abbott's people that won't allow the numbering of the ballots. They won't allow the paper ballot same day counting and the numbering of the ballots, so that they know actually where these ballots are, where they're going, where they're coming from. So, you know, the GOP chair in Abbott's area is actually living in a house that is funded by somebody in DC. We're having a ton of subterfuge here with Abbott, and that's not surprising because Abbott is basically doing what he's told to do. When he was called out on video to denounce the World Economic Forum, Abbott would not do it. And so, you know, we have a globalist player there. He's setting up this thing in Eagles Pass, but this convoy does not seem to be part of it. You know, we have Biden coming back and saying he's cutting off all LNG exports out of Texas. This is going to harm Europe. It's going to push them towards something. Russia, BRICS. BRICS just announced they now have Ethiopia, Egypt, UAE, Saudis, more besides joining BRICS. And Biden cuts the LNG exports to Europe out of Texas to sabotage Texas. And this is, of course, this giant attack on Texas, which they seem to think is a huge threat, of course, against globalism. And so, of course, with Trump, it's drill, baby, drill. We get everything, all of our energy back up back running and running this country, and that's what we need to do. And so we hear in Texas as well, they're putting out FEMA alerts onto phones saying that there's massive hiring for FEMA in Texas. We don't know what that's about, what they're planning there, but that's an interesting thing. But so, okay, we need to kind of get into what's going on there. And I kind of want to just report on what the Convoy is doing. So the Convoy, if you go to takeourborderback.com, it looks to be pretty well organized. They say that they're really looking for any feds or provocateurs, that sheriffs are on board, that it looks to be well done. And this is, of course, one of the people leading it is Doc Pete Chambers, the lieutenant colonel and army doctor, former special services, maybe a SEAL, can't remember exactly, but he's leading that convoy there, confirming that there are at least 120,000 Chinese males that have come over in this last year, 30,000 Chinese females. The CCP doesn't let people just leave the country. They come here with a purpose. And then we get Chris Reide today testifying that, we have the biggest threat ever by the CCP, that they are, going to attack our civilian infrastructure, and that we don't have enough FBI agents to even cover this, that it's so massive, so huge, but yet here they come through the border. And more besides I'll get into, but an interesting thing with Panama being completely overrun. It's like 1 in 4 citizens of Panama are Chinese now, and China runs the Panama Canal, which was given away by Jimmy Carter. And this crazy thing where this thing that United States treasure lives, tens of thousands of lives lost in creating the Panama Canal. It was like a massive just death chamber of people trying to make this canal and given away. Now the Chinese run and basically own it, are taking over Panama and creating all the Belt and Road initiatives through there, and all of our billions of taxpayer dollars are going to go down there, or hundreds of millions, to create these camps and these and infrastructure for invading our country. That's what's going on. So we get back to what's going on with what Pete Chambers has said, Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers. He said that they've at least identified at least 12 people who seem to be agitators, provocateurs. Law enforcement is involved. Sheriffs, local, are taking care of it. They're going to a place that's called Kimoto, where there's a woman there that they are actually part of why this convoy is happening was to support what she is doing, where she is supporting a women's shelter and a safe place for children right across the border, right down below Dripping Springs. And so they're all meeting up in Dripping Springs, where I think tomorrow on February 1st, they'll be meeting up at what is called the One Shot Distillery and Brewery. One Shot Distillery and Brewery in Dripping Springs on February 1st. I think at 5 p.m. is when they do their hangout. And then the next day they go on to do their convoy run. And so check that out if you want to be involved. It seems to be legit. I do think that there is, I still would not bring my phone that was linked to my body, my person, just for the geofencing situation. So there's that. Okay, so now moving on, I want to get into, from that and with that, into some more of the news. So, it's looking like in Kiev, in Ukraine, we're having kind of a slow coup there happening again by the U.S. and NATO, where now they're getting ready to take Zelensky out. There's now Zelensky trying to fire his top general, Zilnuzny, I think I'm saying his name right. He asked him to resign. The general refused to resign. Zelensky didn't ask for approval from his NATO controllers for this. He knows that maybe his time is running short, and he is trying to fire his top generals because they're going against him. And the U.S. and the U.K., are pressuring this situation to move forward. So it's very interesting to see what's going on when Zelensky tried to fire the top general in charge of the military, Zilnuzny. There was a major social media campaign that came out that apparently comes out of U.S. intelligence and NATO to stop this from happening, and gets pressured. And Zelensky declines to resign, and then he was fired by Zelensky. But there's still a sort of détente here, where it looks like they're trying to push out. Zelensky's going the way of the other useful idiots that get used and then discarded. And so that's happening in Kiev, this slow-moving next coup level into NATO and the U.S. And UK, Britain, the MI6, the CIA, being able to establish what they need to do for Lockheed Martin, for Boeing, for Bucknell, all of them, where they're going to make sure that they can get as much money as they can before the dollar collapses, with BRICS moving forward so fast, and they need to launder that money through Ukraine. So we'll see what's going to go on there, but I wanted to just put that out. And now I want to put out, it's brought up by Revolver.news. This is Darren Beattie doing all the heavy lifting, former advisor to President Trump. Well, him, Representative Thomas Massey, Matt Gaetz, all putting out the new information that now they know for sure that the pipe BOMB that was planted at the DNC right in front of the building there was definitely found by a still currently employed and on-duty Capitol Police officer. And this is a whistleblower coming out and giving this to Revolver News, that this whistleblower has said that it was a Capitol Police officer who found it. Everything looks very much, for entertainment purposes only, all placed there. These are smoking guns for taking down the J6 narrative, because if they can take down the pipe BOMBERs that was at the RNC in an alley next to the Capitol Club, and the DNC, then and also taking apart the narrative of what happened there at the breach of the Capitol at the West End, then there's going to be no more J6 credible information. And the J6 committee that covered it up, lost over 100 videotapes and files and records, is going to be outed. And it's also said that the FBI has the license plate of the person who actually put the supposed device, which I've talked about in other videos that Beattie has put out in others, where these BOMBs that are basically look like training devices from the FBI that they use in their training, they're not real. That person who put that device there at the DNC, where Kamala Harris was and still has never announced that she was there at the time of this happening on J6 back in 2020, that the FBI has a license plate of the person who put the device there, but still will not mention him, interview him, and we don't know. So, but these are, this is the smoking gun of taking down the Jan 6 narrative. And so going on from there, I want to get into and mention here, when we look at what's going on with Trump and this crazy $83 million to E. Jean Carroll, well, it's also now being announced by Tara Reide, who had to flee to Russia, literally fled to Russia after her rape allegations against creepy pedo Joe, that she fled to Russia in 2019. Well, actually, no, she fled to Russia, I think 2 years later. But that was because she was being harassed so hugely by the FBI in something called Operation Cassandra. And she is now putting out a tort lawsuit on the FBI, filing the tort case for only $10 million. So we get creepy E. Jean Carroll, winning this $83 million just to steal all of Trump's money for this defamation suit with something she can't remember, doesn't know what happened, where it happened, all coming out of fantasy things from TV. And she is bragging on Rachel Maddow, saying she's going to spend it on new wardrobes and going fishing in France. I'm not sure what that's about. They were all cringed out, but she's there saying, hey, what do you want? I'm going to spend Trump's money on luxuries. I'm going to spend Trump's money on basic liberal crap, where it is this thing of I'm fiscally conservative, but I'm socially liberal, right? And it's just that epitome of what is wrong with these people, that they continually sell out America and our lives. So we get E. Jean Carroll saying that. Well, Tara Reide literally had the case, the real stuff, from 1993 with her rape allegations against Biden, and continual sexual harassment before and after. And those records still remain sealed, okay? And so now she opens up this tort case against Biden, well, actually against the FBI, for only $10 million. Not the $83 million of E. Jean Carroll or whatever. No. She has to run to Russia, okay, and live there just to survive because of Operation Cassandra, where the FBI was basically positioned in 2019, right before the election, to go after her, discredit her, harass her, and possibly eliminate her. And so she's gone on record for this, and it's so important to understand. Remember Paula Jones, right, with Bill Clinton and the violent rape that went on there for entertainment purposes only. And so, okay. So from there, I'm going to get into back to the border. I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to get into the transhumanism stuff and how it's connected to the transgenderism stuff of what's going on right now. I think I'm going to get into Todd Bensman, and then we're going to get into in Massachusetts what's going on. So I'm going to go with Center for Immigration Studies, okay, and Todd Bensman. He's been reporting on the UN 2024 Regional Refugee and Migrant Response Plan update. And this is U.S. taxpayer dollars going to fund massive, huge amounts of UN spending to invade our country, with 250 NGOs involved, HIAS, Catholic Charities, all of it. $1.6 billion in 17 Latin American countries and the Caribbean, and also Venezuela, I believe, to build the invasion infrastructure. Okay, that's all of the roads, the bridges. This is the Belt and Roads. This is China. This is money going to basically China, build this stuff, right? And then the rest of it is going to pay the illegals themselves, the migrants, with debit cards, travel, housing, healthcare, all of it. And so $372 million of this $1.6 billion under the UN's 2024 Regional Refugee and Migrant Response Plan update, $372 million in cash, debit cards, payouts to 625,000 migrants, okay? And then there's 1.59 billion, so almost 1.6 billion. They just bring it down by $100,000. Well, for 3 million migrants, okay, to be funneled up to the United States, 3 million, okay. And there's 15 UN agencies that are also getting 1.2 billion of this to make sure that those 3 million migrants get up to the United States. Okay, and so that regional refugee migrant response plan is a 130-page document. I'm going to link it below under Todd Bensman's great article. You can go click on it, download it if you want to read it. But it was mostly written by NGOs, okay? And these NGOs are who are collecting all the money and stealing everything from us as taxpayers. Our Social Security is about to be bankrupt within, by the end of the decade, and they're stealing it from our Social Security money. And so I want to, talk about part of this, a couple things. Out of Georgia, the Gateway Pundit reported that in Georgia, we have the great State Senator Colton Moore. He's also the one that's going after Fani Willis, right, who's doing all of the stealing of the money out of Georgia as she's prosecutor of Trump with her boyfriend and all of that. Well, he also went and found out about migrants being held in the Atlanta airport, where they're having hundreds of migrants being sequestered and run through the Atlanta airport. and they're under military guard. They're soldier protected in this secret room in Atlanta in the airport, where they say it's called Team Libertad that they are part of, and Libertad is an NGO. Project Libertad, if you look it up, the president of the board on Libertad, but Libertad is Rogelio Alon, and he works on software solutions at Vanguard. Okay, so the biggest controller of everything, the trillionaire company Vanguard. This guy, who's the president of the board on Project Libertad. I mean, can't make it up. All right, and so there's that. And then I also wanted to mention that in Greensboro, North Carolina, there's been going on this situation where there's the American Hebrew Academy there, 100-acre campus closed down, citing financial concerns, 100 acres, okay, in Greensboro, North Carolina, and of course connected to HIAS. I've talked about how this is connected to Mayorkas, impeach him, no oath, arrest him, treason, all of it. Getting tons of money from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, reopening their school, their American Hebrew Academy, to become basically a child migrant facility, housing thousands and thousands of migrant children, and they're receiving tons of taxpayer dollars to educate these kids, and also 6 hours a day of education plus housing, feeding, all of this with taxpayer money. And there's also a school not far away that I'm going to talk about. It's a special needs school, like most likely for autistic, Asperger's spectrum children, that's being closed immediately within, given like 6 weeks notice to the parents to find a new place for their kids. It's the only school in the area where special needs kids can go and have just have an education. It being closed immediately to do the same thing, to house migrant children. And so North Carolina is under attack. I would recommend go to momsforliberty.org, find out about it, but also join and open a new chapter in your area. And I want to say a few more things about that, which is that Natosha 2 out of the Moms for Liberty at the New Hanover County chapter. She's the chapter chair at New Hanover County there in North Carolina. She said that, yes, the only school designed for special needs children is being shut down to house migrants. They got, by February 2nd, literally, so 2 days from now, as the convoy is happening, at the border there in Dripping Springs, we have the closing of a school that was meant for American children dealing with for entertainment purposes only, being damaged by vaccines, basically, therefore being special needs, having their brains damaged and then having to deal with that. Of course, the best thing to do for all these people is they need to really detox and go on the anti-vaccine protocols. But what she's saying is that they had literally like less than 6 weeks to deal with this, and now all these parents have nowhere to bring their special needs children. And so, again, by February 2nd, this school will be shut down in New Hanover County. And again, she talks about them renaming it the Newcomers School, the Greensboro Influx Care Facility, right, is also the name given to the American Hebrew Academy, and they are offering what are wraparound services with $50 million of U.S. taxpayer money. And so the Greensboro Piedmont Academy, okay, is the school, I believe, that was shut down in New Hanover County, and this is, again, HHS funded. So terminate all of these people in charge of the school boards in this area. You need to get involved in your school boards and get involved with Moms for Liberty. This is the modern slave trade infrastructure of the New World Order of Cartel Babylon, to replace American children with migrant children. God save them all. And so let's go on. There's like a massive cartel war going on in Yuma, on the other side of the border at Yuma, Arizona, where they're shooting up each other constantly. The convoy is heading there, I believe, on the 3rd or the 4th. And, Yuma, Arizona, right across the border there is just massive conflicts with massive cartel wars going on, massive death, all of that. And so I'm going to go to Massachusetts here, and then I'm going to get into the transhumanism aspect and how the people that want to just check out from dealing with reality are moving towards transhumanism and just trying to go for themselves. They want to be globalists, and they want to be they want to have a clean slate without any kinds of human history, culture, cultural norms. They want to get rid of all of it and beliefs and be part of a system of creating the new human 2.0 transhumanism person. And that's bringing into it huge amounts of children that are getting sucked into this. And so let me just grab this. I want to talk about Massachusetts real quick before I move into that. And so Massachusetts, very interesting, where we have the, in Massachusetts, Trump remains on the ballot. That got rejected, where he gets to stay on the ballot in Massachusetts, right? And we have what editorial in the Boston Herald said today is that, we have Governor Maura Healey there. She's been saying to everybody, hey, please house these migrants in your homes, right? As Massachusetts is overrun. And it's backfiring because people in Massachusetts are running from lifelong Democrats are turning red and flipping. And now that Trump is still on the ballot, you never know. Trump could get Massachusetts. I mean, I'm prayers for that. But, what basically they're saying is Maura Healey is playing hide the migrant. So they've been living in the Logan Airport there, the major airport, the international airport in Boston, living in Logan Airport. It went from there being 43 hotels housing migrants a few months ago to now 140 hotels, 1,800 hotel rooms, okay? And they're no longer saying how many migrants are there. They're just saying there's 7,500 migrant families. So you maybe times it times 5. Say there's like 50,000 or whatever migrants there. But basically, they've moved them into the Melnia Cass Recreation Center in Roxbury. And this is, traditionally an African-American community in Roxbury. Their recreation center is like central to life and actually getting a heal up and getting great camaraderie with your friends, but also, your local leaders, this kind of thing. No. They've closed it down, stolen it, the Melnia Cass recreation center, and giving it to house migrants, and they're pissed, and people are getting up. Todd Bensman is going to go speak there, I believe, in the next week or two. They're going to try to take this over, and also hundreds of millions of dollars out of Massachusetts now going to welfare for these migrants, as I mentioned before, in that UN 1.6 billion. So much of the money is going in cash to migrants. And so, let's just remember, as part of the Constitution, as we see appeals from different, the Massachusetts, I watch these guys, the representatives, the House representatives, out of the states, they're just so swarmy, and they're saying, you're wealthy, we're looking at how many wealthy people are there, in the suburbs, and, couldn't you take in a migrant family, and I'll tell you, those people who are like, no, we didn't sign up for this. We're fiscally conservative, socially liberal, but we didn't sign up for taking any migrant families into our house. And so there's that. Okay, so I'm going to move over from there. If you want to be part of that Convoy, I always think of that movie. Then you can check out takebackourborder.com, and it looks like it's pretty legit with there being a lot of sheriffs involved, a lot of constables, identifying anybody that looks dodgy, provocateurs, and that they're going to really go play by play for how they do what they do. They decided not to go through Austin, not to make a show of it that way, but really to show the humanitarian side of it and to have an American presence. So that's, again, starting in Dripping Springs tomorrow. I'll link it all below. And so now I want to move into, for the remaining 10 minutes here, I want to talk about this situation with everybody's saying, oh, Elon Musk, Neuralink. Now they're saying, oh, we successfully implanted somebody with Neuralink. I mean, I'm like, is this 5 years ago? 200,000 plus people we already knew several years ago have been implanted with these neural links. And now they're saying, oh, there's human trials with Neuralink. They're now recruiting people with paralysis or spinal injuries to say, hey, come be part of, these trials. And it's so ridiculous because we've had, even BlackRock has their own Neuraltech, massive, huge company using neural lace. That they kind of took that over, the neural lace, and they're really kind of ahead of all of this. They've been implanting people for years, and so has Neuralink and Musk and all of this. It's all just a beard. It's a lie. We're already part of the Internet of Bodies, whether it's through drugs that are taken with the sensors in them that connect you to the Bluetooth, the massive clot shots that everybody took. Not everybody, so many did not at all, but the poor people who did, may they detox immediately. These sensors are everywhere, and they're in all of us because they rain from the skies and we breathe them in through all the geoengineering. But I wanted to highlight a couple things here about, some craziness that's going on. And I wanted to talk about Bryan Johnson and the Gen Zero movement, what he's calling the Gen Zero movement. And this is the guy who's, he's like a biohacker. He believes that he can maintain the body of an 18-year-old, even though he's 46 years old. And he founded a bunch of companies that just happen to do the same thing that everybody else is doing when it comes to contributing to big pharma and recording data on every human that they can get their hands on. And so let's get into Bryan Johnson for a second. So he has been trying to push this movement called Gen Zero. And basically he's saying there's a zero growth world out there. We're being, basically useless. Humans are becoming outdated. We have no purpose. And so he says that humans should rise up and divorce from society, from humanity, from basically our culture, our history, our countries, our beliefs, our religions, and become part of what he's calling the Gen Zero movement. He says it's a zero growth world out there. And so when we look at BlackRock's Neuraltech and the neural lace and the BCI, the brain computer interfaces, he's somebody saying, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's get augmented and let's move to the next level. And what he's been doing in his own life, he is an entrepreneur who is a multi-millionaire. He created a couple of companies. One of them is Braintree Financial, and the other is Kernel. And I'll get into both of those in a second. But what Bryan Johnson has been doing, part of it is parabiosis, where he has used his own son, Talmage, I believe is his name, 17 years old, where for a time he was injecting his son's blood into himself. Okay, it gets into back into Peter Thiel and Ambrosia and Hillary Clinton, Al Gore for entertainment purposes only, all these people with their blood bags, right? All this, we need your youth blood, we need that child blood, we must traffic as many children as we can to get those child blood so that we can live forever. Well, he did this with his own son, And so Bryan Johnson, so he basically says, we volunteer to be a blank slate. Okay, we'll be a blank slate. We will promise to not subscribe to any norms, any culture, any country, beliefs. We volunteer to be the augmented future for the global society, for the global Cartel Babylon reset. And of course, this is for the creating an interbody nano network, for being part of what can humanity 2.0 be. And so I'll link all of this below where you can follow him and see what he's doing. And so what we get here is we see Bryan Johnson, his whole plan, his whole motto is, his goal is don't die, don't die. He wants to live forever. And so he's doing this incredible regime where he's spending $2 million a year to, take 111 supplements every day, constantly connected with 30 doctors. It's like Ray Kurzweil, right? It's like him, the transhumanist, that he's doing this thing is, a lot of it is actually just healthy, what you do if you really are going for longevity, 6-hour eating window, adopting all of these techniques. But let's get into some of it. So he basically, his goal is to get an 18-year-old body as a 46-year-old man, and including the blood infusions of youths, and then the massive amounts of supplements, all the doctors, a 6-hour eating window of per day, where it's 2,200 calories per day, and that it must be finished by 11 a.m. So he goes to bed every night at 9 p.m., gets up at 5:15. So from 5 to 11 a.m. is when he can eat, and then doesn't eat all day, and repeat. So it's a very structured, very militaristic type lifestyle. You could call it the health military, right? It's like live forever military, but basically, what he eats is kind of what you'd call paleo vegan for the most part. Lots of broccoli and lentils and tons of superfoods. And it's all good and whatever, but basically he's created his own blueprint program. I'm going to link it below. You can check it out. But it all comes out of this thing that as he grew up as a Mormon, and he kind of embraced the situation of Lucifer as a child of God. And he wrote this book called Don't Die by Zero. Was the authorship. Don't Die by Zero. And basically he has this character called Scribe, who is the one who, is the narrator, and he's about to die. And so he brings all his friends for one last hurrah. And there is multiple characters, but they're all kind of depersoned. They're all called by description names rather than actual names that give you an identity. You get things like farm boy, self-critical, gameplay, seeks authority, self-harm, model builder, cognitive bias, relentless, dark humor, blueprint, devil may care, depression. These are actually the names of characters. So they're depersoned. They're just made to be like as if they are data information, which is what Johnson says the only thing that he believes in his Gen Zero movement, where we should empty our brains of all history, start fresh. This is Klaus Schwab's wet dream, the great reset of humanity for automation. And what this book, Don't Die by Zero, comes out with at the end is that there should be, basically an automation, augmentation of humanity. Society should be automated, humanity should be augmented, and that's kind of where this guy who drinks his own son's blood, is thinking. It's crazy town. These people are nuts. And so he started something called, and this is what's, so intense, because they start these things that are controlling our lives. We get Braintree Financial, okay, a Chicago-based company that he founded for what? App X is Musk doing? Did he buy Twitter to program a artificial superintelligence, or an AI machine learning that would get the full spectrum of knowledge instead of the dumbed down, the liberal version of knowledge that they did by censoring everybody, creating an open Twitter so that they can get the real deal with AI programming, with Grok, right? But Braintree Financial is an online payment and global payment processor, okay, that was founded by Bryan Johnson. And this was in 2007. He became a multimillionaire. They bought Venmo in 2012. And then PayPal bought Venmo in 2013, but they did this kind of payback where Braintree got, its access points as the payment processor went worldwide. And so they've been now, in 2016, they were already processing $50 billion in payments, including in China and other enemy countries of the United States. And then he also then started Kernel in 2016. Kernel, meaning the inner soft core of the seeds, like where all the DNA of the seed lives. Kernel. And this is a precision neuromedicine company, precision neuromedicine. And they do, what is it? Basically brain modeling. It's pretty much neuroimaging, like a headset, kind of neural lace style, but more functional in the practical sense. And it's biomarker technology, all run by AI, and basically, through a brain interface, gathering all of your bio data, and that they're partnered with the NIH, and you can go to clinicaltrials.gov, right to try. And the FDA did announce last week that they are no longer going to have to inform individuals when they experiment on them with medicine. That literally are saying that it's no longer required by the FDA that you are being experimented on by Big Pharma at all. That it's literally now taken off of the purview of the Federal Drug Administration. Unbelievable. And so we get Kernel being deep in there, better data, better brains is what they say. And that, of course, they want to get in there and read all your data. And that's what Bryan Johnson said he's all about. His big deal is that I only believe in data and numbers. And that's why he created these companies. And that's why he's tight in there with biotech, Big Pharma, as all of this rolls forward. And so I wanted to bring him to your attention to kind of see the players involved in these biggest companies that are coming at us with the Internet of Bodies, with the intra-body nano network. When we hear of Neuralink, just implanted somebody, that's nothing, okay? They've been doing this for literally decades, and they've been very, very successful in the last half dozen years. The CCP implants their soldiers like this. I would say that if there's Chinese, that 150,000 Chinese that Michael Yan and others talk about of already crossing into our borders, and Chris Ray saying, our infrastructure is under attack by the Chinese. Well, I would pretty much be pretty confident for entertainment purposes only that those Chinese are already implanted with some kind of GPS that is absolutely tracked and traced. And when it gets to neural augmentation, this has also been going on in super soldier experiments for years and years. And so when we see that there's guys like Bryan Johnson, I want to be 18, why? Why? Why are these people obsessed with youth? Why are they unable to accept the cyclical nature, of humanity and this obsession with being God? To me, it's so nuts. That we can't accept aging. It's not that you don't want to. The reality is that our neurons, our brains, if they weren't being attacked constantly by geoengineering, by clot shots, by drugs, by vaccinations, by all the poison in the water and the air, and the food, if we weren't being attacked, okay, we would live, like the biblical characters of old. We would live longer, okay. But humanity has been attacked, and we have the right to be as healthy as we can into our old age. But at some point there becomes an old age, and at some point you go, and join God in heaven, and you go to the next level. The point is, you need to go to the next level. And these people that think they can do this like Jupiter descending type life, if you ever saw that movie Jupiter Descending, where they're all living like gods, and they go and they capture planets, and then they luge the planets, they harvest all the energy of the humans and make it into a giant milk bath, and then become out renewed, being like, looking like 12-year-olds when they're like 500 years old. No, who would want to do that? It's so nuts. you can't keep your sanity and your wisdom. You can't have wisdom through technology. You can only have wisdom through learning and human experience and in your communion with God. Wisdom comes from God, and it comes from being human, and it comes from the understanding of morality. And the one thing lacking in this biotech transhumanism is morality. And so I'm going to close with this story, the lack of morality of what's going on with transhumanism and transgenderism leading to transhumanism. I'm just going to talk about Todd and Krista Kolstad out of Montana. And this is a family who had a daughter, 14 years old. She was adopted, I believe, when she was a child. And she was 14 years old, and then she was taken from them by CPS because she had been what was called sudden onset, don't we just love that phrase? Sudden onset gender dysphoria. Sudden onset, like it's not enough to just have sudden death syndrome, like sudden infant death, sudden adult death. No, now it's sudden, sudden tachycardia. Now it's sudden, turbo cancer. Now it's sudden gender dysphoria. Oh my God, I'm suddenly gender dysphoric. Well, yeah, that's what happened. And this poor girl, I think, to me, for entertainment purposes only, I really wonder about vaccine damage and this girl maybe being on the Asperger's or autism spectrum. And what happens there is you get a lot of anger, you get OCD-like behavior, you get depression, anxiety, all of this, and you can detox all of that. You can detox it all. And Todd and Krista Kolstad in Montana had their daughter stolen from CPS and brought to Montana for immediate incarceration in some kind of facility that was going to attempt to transition her immediately. And CPS came and took her away. It was all really calculated and horrific. If you want to learn more about it and also help them out, they're in a huge legal battle. You can go to givesendgo.com/GBMG9, and I will link it below. Okay, and again, momsforliberty.org to help fight this kind of thing. But what I really want to say is that you should also check out something called affirmingreality.org. affirmingreality.org. And this is Gabriel Clark. She had the same situation where her daughter was getting pressured through the school system, and the woke libtard crazy to attempt to transition her daughter without her knowing anything. And she found out, and she was able to retake her daughter's health and identity and self and get away from those freaks. And so affirmingreality.org, affirmingreality.org, what they talk about there is desisting versus detransitioning. So they want to help the kids before they get them into the transition process to desist, okay, from all the brainwashing and the programming. It's really a deprogramming through love. It's just like, opening up, having transparency, talking again like you should be with a family to bring your child back to their senses and to escape from this freakazoid socialist, transhumanist, globalist cult, the satanic cult that's trying to steal them. So affirmingreality.org. And again, Todd and Krista Kolstad, pray for them that they can get their child back. I believe right now they're trying to get that girl sent to her birth mother up in Canada, who had put her up for adoption. It's nuts. But again, givesendgo.com/GBMG9, and I'll link it below. And again, affirmingreality.org. So I'm going to leave it there. That's, try to see how that's all interconnected. I'm sure you can, right? It's the globalist plan for invasion migration, funded to the tens of billions, okay, by the UN and the USAID. USAID is hugely paying tons of this for this invasion. It's for the infrastructure, and then it's to house all the children. The children are now in the States. They're taking over facilities needed by already low-income children in need of whether it is special education or low-income recreational facilities. Let's house them in your houses. We have a constitutional right to not have to house occupation forces. We don't have to do that. It's against the Constitution. And then, of course, this buildup of what's going on in Texas, the attack on Texas to shut down the LNG, to further destroy the infrastructure of our energy. It's all, they're just, wow. I mean, it's impressive as a disgusting war plan, but we're awake to it. We are fighting back. And more of all the pieces we know and how they interconnect together, these crazy transhumanist ideas like Bryan Johnson, I'm going to live forever and be 18, the nutballs, they're nuts, okay? And we need to be human, we need to be godly, and we need to be interconnected. So get interconnected. We still need you on the fight with the elections. There's a lot going on there. Precinctstrategy.org or precinctstrategy.com, and then the LindellPlan.com. momsforliberty.org. There's so many ways, but we need you. There's huge things going on. Tomorrow I will talk more about the election stuff. Whew. But, don't worry, don't give up. This has all been happening behind the scenes before we all knew about it. Now we know about it, and so we can resist it. Once you know something, it has no power over you. And this is the beautiful thing about information and the information war and the information sharing, the information liberation, right? Information liberation, because when you know something, it loses its power over you. When you don't know it, and it's happening anyway, you're being controlled by something, and it's affecting you every day, and you don't know who is actually doing this to you. The more we discover, the more we put the information out there, the more we can be free, because that is what we're meant to be, right? God gave us free will so that we can be free. And so you uncover, right, the deception mechanism, and their whole thing is reversals upon reversals, right? They hide things in lies upon lies upon lies, right? And Satan is the liar and a purveyor of lies. And so the more we uncover and reverse all those reversals, we get to the truth. And that's what we're doing. So thanks for watching, folks. It's so good to be with you here. If you appreciate the channel or have found something valuable here and you want to donate, there's ways to do so below. And if you want to, if you do donate below, you'll get entered into the giveaway that will happen tomorrow of 2 bottles of C60 Evo capsules, organic C60. And so I just want to say again, thank you. I appreciate you so much. And we are free.